Looking for one that says brain in gear.
Brain in gear?
Yeah.
Oh, brain in gear, I see. Yeah, that's not a feature.
Oh, it's the app we need. Erev Tov, everyone. I discussed with you previously this week the pasuk v'lo shomu el Moshe mikotzer ruach u'me'avoda kosher, that the Jewish people did not hearken unto Moshe. Mikotzer ruach, shortness of breath, of spirit, of hope. Ma'avoda kosher, from the hard labor that they were undergoing. I mentioned to you then that there are two widely divergent views of the meaning of the pasuk. One is kotzer ruach, is that the Jewish people didn't have spirit. They were so depressed that even when Moshe told them that we're going to get out of here and we'll be a free people, they didn't believe him. The mentality of the slave is depression, an acceptance of the tragedy that is occurring. The second opinion, which Barbanel mentions and others, is mikotzer rucho shel Moshe. So at first glance, the way I always thought of it is that Moshe was short on spirit. Moshe didn't believe either, because Moshe said, Heim lo yaminu li. And Moshe said, the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Kal v'chomer, B'nai Yisrael lo shomu elai, Shishmeini paro, and Vani aral svasoyim, I can't speak well. All of this is therefore attributed to the weakness of spirit of Moshe. However, it always bothered me. How do you say that about Moshe Rabbeinu? I mean, he goes before Paro, he stands before the whole Egyptians. He's a convicted felon, they can kill him anytime. And you say he doesn't have spirit? That he somehow is lacking in the faith of the very words that he is expressing after having heard those words, kaviyachol, so to speak, from heaven. And we see that throughout the career of Moshe, yet Moshe is the strongest leader that the Jewish people ever had. So this always bothered me. Believe it or not, there are many things that bother me. But today I was granted an insight that at least gives me some satisfaction. Shomu el Moshe mikotzer ruach, shortness of spirit. Kotzer rucho shel Moshe, the shortness of spirit of Moshe. What the Torah is telling us here, that the Jewish people couldn't grasp the spirit of Moshe. They did not see his dream. They're willing to settle 3 days in the desert. Moshe wants to take them out. We're going to Har Sinai. It's going to be in a Sinai Sator world. We don't want to be the Am HaNivchar. Moshe is unable to communicate his dream to them. That's the Kotzer Rucho Shel Moshe. They didn't see it the way he saw it. And therefore, Moshe is disappointed. That's why he says, Eichi Shmeini Paro. If the Jewish people don't see the dream, then how's Paro going to see the dream? And we see that later in the Midrashim, when the Jewish people are told that they should borrow, should ask for goods from the Egyptian masters, that they be compensated for what they worked on. So what is that important? They went out without the goods, because the money ended up in the Egel anyway. So the Medrash says, Shelo Yomar Oso Tzadik, Avram Avinu shouldn't complain in heaven. Va'avodum Vinu Oso Marba Meo Shono Kiyem. The Rabbanu Shalom fulfilled that they would be slaves. V'achrechein Yetzu B'chush Godo Lo Kiyem. So the Medrash answers that the Rechush Godel was the Torah. Achrechein Yetzu Rechush Godel, I will give them something that is of eternal value. That is the greatest Rechush that can be given. But they didn't see that. They saw Rechush Godel, what's in the bank account. They didn't see past it. And we see that throughout the generation in the Midbar. We all know that in Parshas Vayera, you have the Daled Lishonos Shel Gula, Otzeisi, Vitzalti, Lakachti, Vitnalti. It was 4 times. And then it says a 5th time, Ve'evesi. And I'll bring them there to Israel. So the 5th time, Ve'evesi is not counted in the 4 Lashonos Agula. The Maharal says that it should be. According to the Maharal, we should drink 5 cups at the Seder, not 4. But the poskim don't agree. The first 4 Lashonos, the Jewish people understood. Otzeisi, Goalti, Akachti, Itzalti, that they understood. It's getting out of Egypt. That there's a different purpose. I'm going to bring you there to soil. That's a bridge too far. That's a vision that they did not share. And therefore, at the Seder, we don't celebrate it. Because that wasn't what they, and we see that in the desert, that was the generation that said, no, it's not Ve'evesi. Tovim was saying, it was good that we die here, we don't have to go to Eretz Yisrael. We have to start up with the Kanani and the Chiti and the Amori. And that's the crisis in Moshe's leadership and life. Moshe, who would do anything to go to Eretz Yisrael, can't get the Jewish people to agree to go to Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, that's the Kotzer Rucho Shel Moshe. That's the shortness of spirit. Not that Moshe was short of spirit, but that somehow the people did not buy into it. They weren't on the same page. It's a problem in leadership throughout the generations. We've often had great people, but the people didn't follow. If you look in Tanakh, I mean, you have Shmuel Anovi. So that's why it says Moshe Varn B'Chonavu Shmuel B'Korei Shmuel. They're comparable. Moshe and Aaron couldn't sell it, and Shmuel couldn't sell it either. It wasn't because they didn't believe. It wasn't because they didn't have the ability to communicate it. It's because the people were not with them in it. The people did not share their vision. So sometimes the Rabbanu Shalom imposes the vision upon us. That's why we're in Eretz Yisrael today. We're in Eretz Yisrael because there's no choice. It's imposed upon us because of the master plan. And even here, when it's imposed upon us, we are still kicking and screaming. But the task of Yetzias Mitzrayim is to give us a greater vision of what freedom would mean, of what can be accomplished. A window into eternity and not just into the few decades that we are here. So all of that is included in this idea and in the pasuk that says, "V'lo shomu el Moshe." They didn't hear Moshe. They heard him, but they didn't hear him. They heard him with their ears, but not with their hopes, not with their vision. And because of that, therefore, the story unfolds in one way when it could have unfolded in a different way. You see, Derech Shloshes Yomim Bamidbar, they're 3 days out of Eretz Yisrael. It takes them 40 years to go 3 days. That whole generation has to go. Could have unfolded differently. But that was Kotzer Rucho Shel Moshe. They didn't understand Moshe, so therefore that's what happened to them as well. Rabbi Chananya ben Akashia, Omer Rotza HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'Zakos Yisrael. V'ficha chibah lahem Torah u'mitzvot, shenemar Adonai chavetz aman tzidko yagil Torah v'yadir.
Amen. You worked. You have worked. You have worked.
Good.
The brain worked.